getting into.
Yeah.
And then to hear her read it, like you said, you can hear, that was like a point I remember hearing a lot of emotion in her voice, like full of emotion. At the end of this book, titled Know My Name, was just like, yeah, it was really incredible. So I also really liked hearing it on audio. It felt more personal to be able to actually hear her voice reading it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other parts that I will talk about her sort of like vocal, like her emotions in her voice that you can hear is when she talks about Stanford. So it happened on Stanford's campus, right? They're at a frat party at Stanford, and like Stanford is like little to no like help or assistance like provided like during the whole thing. So afterwards, essentially in an attempt to not get sued, it feels like they wanted to reach out and like do something with her or whatever. So they're going to build this like memorial garden essentially at Stanford. And on like, I think it's like a bench or a stone or something, they wanted to use a quote from her, and they like kept asking for a quote from her and she'd supply one, like from the impact statement or something like that. And then they would like respond back like, like, I don't know about that one. That one seems a little too like charged or something like that. And we don't want to like trigger any other people coming here or whatever. And she just gets like so frustrated because like she keeps sort of like playing along with them, being like, okay, you don't like that one. How about this one? And then they kick it back again. And she's like, okay, well, how about this one? And they kick it back again. To eventually she gets like fed up and she's just like, you know what? Like, no. And she kind of like explains this and almost like takes like offense at them telling her that this stuff was triggering, or could be triggering to victims or whatever. And, she essentially says that like, I write not to trigger victims, but to comfort them, like some of the things that she's writing and saying, like, it's tough for her to write, number one. So she knows it's going to be tough to hear. But she thinks that like, hearing this, her firsthand account, for people like, and hearing the like amount of the times where she's definitely not okay and like is fully able to say that she's not okay, like hearing that it's okay to not be okay is a powerful thing. And like witnessing somebody else kind of go through these ups and downs of the trauma, like is like a powerful thing. And then that's what she's writing, to essentially tell other people that she's there with them. Like is this whole group, essentially that is like standing there with them. Like people know what this feels like. It's a hard thing to go through. And like, you're essentially not alone. You might feel like you're alone, but you're not. And I thought that was one of the most moving moments for me.
I really like that too. I did feel like, to your point on their reply of like how fucking condescending and pompous for them to masquerade wanting to cover up the stink on their campus as trying to protect victims. Like,
absolutely. Like,
wow, fuck you. But yeah, seriously, I just, yeah, I do. So she does reread the whole impact statement at the end. And I do just love like having this follow-up. She is such an eloquent writer. I think we're so lucky to have her writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to see more of this. I hope this becomes required reading. I really do.
Absolutely. And like, I think you mentioned it for She Said, but it was actually in my review for Know My Name, where I was like, the people that need to read this won't be, because it is those people who are asking, like, why didn't she report? Like, you need to read that. But I also like strongly feel that like victims need to read this. Like I shared this with friends, just like I had a hard time reading this, but I think it was important for me to read this, and I think it would be important for you, and like also healing for you to read it. And like I completely understand people, like may not be ready to read something like this, but I think it's important to like to have, you know, and like be able to get to at some point whenever you're ready. Like if you've experienced any kind of trauma like this, like I highly recommend it for that purpose. Like you might need space and time to sort of like deal with things yourself, but at some point, like I do recommend coming back to this book.
I absolutely agree. And I also think like after you read that, I feel like everyone needs to hand this book to a man in their life and make them read it.
Yeah.
Because we have these conversations all the time and understand sort of the devastation and like the seriousness of this subject. But I sometimes wonder if like people, even people who are well-meaning and benevolent and aren't full of malice, just don't understand the depth of something like this. Like
I said I've recommended this to other survivors, but like I also have a few men that I'm like, I should gift them this book because I think it's important that like they read this too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't have anything else.
Me neither. So that was Know My Name and She Said, I think two very powerful books. We'll also link Chanel Miller's original impact statement that went viral via BuzzFeed on our website as well. So if you haven't read that, you can check that out as well.
What are you obsessed with this week, Olivia?
So I've actually, these are a lot of like heavy topics. So to sort of balance out my media, I've been ripping through Giant Days. It's a comic about three like girlfriends in the UK. I think they're like in or outside Sheffield in the UK, and they're going to school and they're just living that college life. But I find, I don't know, there's not a lot of like action or like very big like plot movements. It is literally just like three women that started college. Like one's a lit major, one studying archaeology, and one's like pre-med. So all over the board, kind of their relationship with each other and others, their significant others, and it's just their life. But like it gets like quirky, like funny, like moments in it. And the art is just adorable. So it's quick to like just blast through. So I'm currently working my way through those volumes.
Nice. So I've been reading, I go a long time, I think, sometimes without reading short stories. And then as soon as I pick up a collection, I'm like, oh my God, I love short stories and I forgot.
Right. Like, why don't I do this more? Same.
Yeah. And sometimes they can almost be like more powerful than a novel, both out of like succinctness and just sort of the way they can be punctuated.
Yeah.
So I've been reading, or I just finished reading Reading Season by Mandolin Smith.
Okay.
This was one I picked up super randomly. It's her first published collection that I saw. First published anything really that I saw outside of like, I think she's had like some New Yorker stories and stuff. And all of them, most of them are about women, but they're all sort of like in points of crisis.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really good story. I don't think that this is like her masterpiece or anything, but I think she's an incredible writer. And it's one of those where like, I'm like, okay, I'm following you on Goodreads now because I want to know when you write your next book. But these were great stories, and I highly recommend, just in general, like if you haven't read some short stories in a while, it can be really satisfying.
Nice. I'll have to check that one out.
Don't forget to like and rate us on your favorite podcast listening app, and catch us next time.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.